Right, next up, Ian Wilson from York St John. Over to you, Ian.
Can you hear me all right?
We can indeed.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Brilliant. Hi everyone. My name's Ian Wilson. I come from York St John University and I teach primary ed and education studies, so maths, computing and everything digital. I was told 3 slides, so I've got 3 slides and that's it, and I will hit the 7 minutes dead on, I promise you. So rather unusually, on the first slide, you actually have the outcomes of this whole activity that I did. So you can guess where I'm going, and hopefully as you see what I did with the students, you'll be able to see how it relates to this. So the first thing I have to say is that what we did actually improved existing good practice. So it wasn't something completely new. It actually took what I was currently doing and actually made it better. And I'll be saying why in a while. It also gave me a real insight to the students' thoughts before a session actually came on that was over the internet but was live, and I actually had an understanding of the questions that they were going to ask, what they wanted to talk about and how to support their learning. And finally, this idea that Talis Elevate with I use the video option is going to become part of my toolkit, and there's already other academics saying we really like this, how can we do that, how can we implement it? So if you're not aware of the video thing, I gave the students a link to a YouTube video that sat in Talis Elevate. And what the students could do was watch the film, watch the video, and comment at any point during that video that they wanted to. I didn't specify when or what, I just said, just go for it. Just out of interest, I didn't even tell them how to do it. They actually figured it out just by randomly clicking. And thanks to Matt for the number crunching here. But as you can see, there was actually 218 comments made. And down at the bottom of the slide, you can see where all the comments were. And that was, all those comments came from 44 students, which was about 66% of the whole cohort. So the important thing for me is I've been using the flipped classroom approach for a while, but historically it hasn't gone that well. I never know which students have actually engaged with the reading, which students have actually got questions about it. And let's be frank, which students have actually even bothered to have a look at it before they came to this session. And so I wanted to try to encourage more engagement with the actual source that I wanted to discuss. But I also wanted to try to alleviate the feeling that I was going into a session blind afterwards, not knowing what was happening, not knowing what they wanted to talk about. So what I actually found that happened is that they watched this video, and the first thing, hence the title of the PowerPoint, I really made it a controversial video. I really made it so there was lots for the students to talk about, and in certain cases actually shock them as well. It was from YouTube, it was an educational video, and it was dealing with challenging behavior. And immediately the students sort of like responded to this, talking about their philosophy, their ethos, how they were shocked, wondering about norms across schools. Does this happen in every school, Ian? I'm really interested about this approach. Also positive, saying, I really liked how the teacher gave the choice, or started to say, which choices do you want to make? And they even started to relate it to their own experience and started to say things like, oh yes, I've seen this working, or we used a different process in our placement and this was effective. Now, the advantage of all those wonderful comments that I collected and the students put into that video, when we actually came to the next session, I was prepared, and not prepared with the content I was normally going to deliver in that session, but prepared to extend the students, the learners' learning from their comments that they had made in the video. And this was something that was quite unusual. I had not experienced this before fully. And it was really interesting how students before the session were contacting me and saying, are we going to talk about this video in the next session, Ian? When are you going to answer our questions about this session? Because they'd really sort of like invested in it themselves through their own learning. The other thing that I would like to make really, really clear at this point, I did no monitoring. I did not go through those 44 students and say, oh, these are the students who have made comments. Okay, personally, that's not part of my philosophy. And I just want to challenge and extend those who have engaged with it. I did hear some feedback from a student who said, I wish I'd actually watched the video before the session now, Ian, because I would have got a lot more from it. It was really interesting how it had challenged their values and their philosophies. And some of them were quite worried and started to say, will I be experiencing this in every school? Is this the norm in schooling and education? And they started to sort of like talk to other students. And at one point, they were actually discussing in the breakout room between themselves, and I had no need to intercede or prompt at all. My advice for the future, if I'm going to do this again, or you want to do it again, first thing, I would definitely keep the video short. Mine was too long. The comments tailed off. And looking back at it, I think I agree. I would have been dozing off as well. Make it controversial. That's what got the students engaged. And be prepared to follow up. Adapt your follow-up session and go with the students. And I think that's when they say at the end, I really enjoyed today's session, Ian, and it's because I was going from their learning and not pre-subscribed learning that I had. And the final thing that I would say is be selective. I'm not going to use Talis Elevate on every single session I do. It's going to be one-off now and again, and the students will naturally dip into it. And that is me finished. You're muted. If you
I need a button. I need a button to smack on the screen. That was exceptional timing. My alarm was going off as you finished. So great stuff, Ian. I think one of the key things you said there is about being selective, and I completely agree with you there. That chimes a lot as well with what we were talking about in the previous session. You can have too much of a good thing, and it will diminish the value in many cases. I will encourage anyone to post questions to Ian about what he's done there, and we will be sharing slides after the fact as well.